I seen a guy make a beat in front of me because I wanted to be a rapper. And I'm just looking at the screen and he's like, yo, you like this beat? And I'm just like, didn't know anything about engineering, just making beats. No mixing, none of that.
Still doing this kind of behind closed doors.
What is that? What program is that? Because it looks like a game. And I'm like, I can do that. That was the first studio I built. I barely knew how to set up a mic because I just wanted to be a producer. That was the moment where it's like, all right, yeah, we need to sign this kid. And that was the breath of fresh air that we needed. We met with Universal, Warner, you name it, man. I mean, we were everywhere. And we ended up signing with Interscope.
You get this deal with Interscope. What happens?
What you see is what you get. I hate to be like, yeah, well, I've done this and I've worked with this person, because nobody cares. To that extent, like it's like it doesn't give me the right to feel like I can tell you what to do because I've done this. And at that moment, that's what changed our lives.
Our next guest was building records, studios, and careers. He was quietly creating long before anyone was paying attention. While most people were chasing visibility, he was chasing skill. While others were waiting to feel ready, he took calculated risks, built infrastructure before confidence, and learned by doing, sometimes in real time, sometimes under pressure. He's someone who understands the difference between passion and discipline, between talent and longevity. Someone who traded certainty for belief, a 9-to-5 mindset for a 24/7 responsibility, and learned that building something real often means being uncomfortable long before you're validated. He's been on both sides of the glass, producer, engineer, studio owner, manager, and has seen firsthand how preparation meets opportunity, how teams matter more than ego, and how success doesn't remove pressure, it multiplies it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the platform, SumYunGhai, AKA Denny, the mastermind behind The Black Room.
Thank you for having me, brother. I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, man. This is one that I'm excited for, bro.
No, me too. And we spoke a lot and we spent a lot of time talking, prepping for this, but this is a good one, man. I'm excited.
For sure. I think more than anything now, we find ourselves having these mini podcasts every time we talk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like we're talking about all these ideas and stuff, and it's like, bro, I'm just asking you how your day's going, and we talk for 20 minutes about this business venture that we could take together, or something you got going on, or something I got going on. So I think that says a lot about the way we think, right? But I think going back, like I've known you probably for about 10 years now, or even more than that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Ever since I met you in your black room, in your studio, as an engineer, right?
Right.
I already met you in kind of this flow. You was kind of starting to build these things up. But for me, and for those who don't know, who is Denny before being an engineer, before the Black Room?
Ooh, so I was always a producer first. Since I was a kid, I've been producing since I was like 14. I've always wanted to produce. I actually wanted to be a rapper first.
Oh.
That's how much I love beats, yeah. Like I wanted to be a rapper. I would buy CDs with instrumentals on them and I would listen to them and I'll fall in love with them. If I heard a song, I would like, oh, I want that beat. Not knowing subconsciously that I just love the beat so much. And then it got to the point where a friend of mine introduced me to FL Studio and I was like, actually, I seen a guy make a beat in front of me because I wanted to be a rapper. And I'm just looking at the screen and he's like, yo, you like this beat? And I'm just like, no, it's cool, but.
So what, you booked a session somewhere to make a song?
My stepfather told me, he's like, yo, I know somebody that makes beats, so let's go to his house. It was nearby. And I go over there and he's making the beat in front of me and I'm watching him and I'm like, what is that? What program is that? Because it looks like a game. And I'm like, I can do that. And he's just like, cool, yeah, nah, this is FL Studio. Do you like the beats? And I'm like, yeah, nah, these are fire. Yeah, like, let me get the software though. Like, let me get that. I want to make that. And then I ended up getting the software and I started messing around. My beats was trash. Nobody told me it was trash. Everybody was like, yeah, you got it. Thank God. You know, it was just
good
like,
people around you.
Yeah. They were just like, man, you're doing your thing, man. Horrible beats. And I was so passionate. I was showing everybody. And from 14, going into high school, I would always make beats, but I was still, you know, trying to rap a little bit. And then I just became just like, I'm gonna produce. That's it. Like, I just really love beats. But nobody knew about that in high school. You know, I'm just, you know, going to high school, having fun, chilling with friends. But when I was home by myself, I would just be making beats, you know. And I remember my mom telling me, like, you would keep me up at night. And I'm in my head, you know, I'm 15, 16, I'm making beats. I got these 2 speakers and I'm like, oh, she don't hear it. And I'm blasting it. And she told me, she was like, this whole time I always knew you was gonna be a producer. And that's why I never went in the room to tell you to put it down. I would just sleep through it. Cause I'm like, maybe one day he'll do something with that. And I was like, man, that was a moment when she told me that. Cause I was like, this whole time I'm thinking, you know, I'm 16, like I said, and I'm like, oh, she don't hear this. Like, she's knocked out, man.
Because she never complained.
She never complained one time. So since then, you know, going back to 14, that's me, a producer. Firsthand, didn't know anything about engineering. Just making beats. No mixing, none of that.
And still doing this kind of behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
No.
It's just you. Not even your friends?
Not even my friends. Some of them knew.
Okay.
I had close friends when I was in middle school.
And why was that?
For some reason, producing wasn't really a thing that I knew anybody else was doing. So it wasn't something that I could share with somebody that would understand.
Okay.
Rapping was the thing. Everybody was rapping, you know. So I dabbed in that, and I was just like, it's cool, whatever, but I never met anybody else that was producing, you know. So that's why I was like, let me just keep it to myself, until I met my friend, and he was rapping too. And he came over, we was in my room, and he's like, you know, I rap, make a beat. And I made a beat, and he was like, bro, what? He was like, I didn't know you made beats like this. And I was just like, oh, I didn't know that they was that good. Like,
you was low-key waiting for that moment.
I was just waiting for that moment for somebody to tell me, because I'm older now. So now I know, like, look, my friends ain't gonna lie to me. If I make some trash, they're gonna tell me.
Yeah.
So at that moment, it's like, okay, cool. To the point where he was like, I want to make beats now. Like,
oh, wow.
this, I don't want to be the guy, you know, in front of the camera. I want to be the guy behind the scenes making the beats with you.
He gave up his rap career right
at that moment. When he heard that beat I made, he was just like, nah, hold on. I could do this. Like, this is cool. And then, you know, once you find a peer and something that you love, you're like, all right, well, you know, let me.
Did he really pursue that?
For a few years.
Okay, cool.
We actually built the studio together.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Took half of the space that we had in the garage and we just converted it into a studio. It was pretty dope, yeah. That was the first studio I built.
Okay.
Had a booth in there and everything. Still didn't know how to record. I barely knew how to set up a mic because I just wanted to be a producer.
So, all right, so I find that interesting, right? You want to make beats, which making beats, you need a little MPC, that's what they're called? MPC?
You can use an MPC, yeah, or software.
Or software, Fruity Loops, yep. Right? So that's all you really need to make beats, right? And you can make beats.
Yeah.
So why did you have the thought of making a studio?
So I knew I had to do something, right? So I went to college. And I was like, you know what? Let me try to find something that I can have a fallback plan on, right? So most people, they'll say, well, I want to pursue this, any art or creative, but they're like, this is a passion, just in case this doesn't work out. Let me at least have a degree in something that I can fall back on. So I did that. Then.
What was your degree in?
Computer science.
Wow.
I went to school for computer science.
Wow. You actually got a degree in computer science?
No, I had like a year left.
Okay. And
I dropped out. Let me not front though, it's community college. I didn't go to, for a bachelor's.
Still, it's computer science though.
Yeah.
I can relate. That's how I started. My first semester was computer science, and then I got to too many numbers. They was like, yeah, you want to make a website? It's 1000111001. I'm like, Nah, I want to do the nice side of it.
Yeah, C++. I don't even know how I passed computer science 1. Once I got to computer science 2, I was just like, this is crazy.
I
What am
left the
doing
first
here?
week.
I'm Googling studio equipment. I'm like, I'm sitting in the front of the class and he's teaching. I'm just building my dream studio online. I'm like, oh man, I gotta get this and this. And then I remember telling my mom, I was with my wife. Well, she was my girlfriend at the time, and she had a job opportunity to move to Maryland. She just she just graduated Temple, and she got this, big job. And around that time, I was working at Guitar Center. I already had the studio, and I decided to expand the room because I wanted more space. Again, I wasn't thinking about engineering or the mixing side or any of that. I was just like, you know what? I think we need more space. But I've heard of studios around the town, doing good. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can open a business. So I started expanding, and then I got a job at Guitar Center because I knew that the discount was insane. So, you get like 40% off. So I'm like, all right, well, let me work here for a year.
Smart.
Let me get as much as I can to build a studio, because a lot of studio desks is like $3-4 grand at the time. I'm getting it for like $1,500. I'm like, all right, well, I can definitely get 90% of what I need. And then once I got it built, she got this job opportunity to move to Maryland. And I remember it was just like, I didn't want to choose. I didn't want an ultimatum, like either we move or, it's over, or I have to pressure her to stay. And so it was just a lot. And I remember my mom talking to us, and, she's just like, listen, like, if this is what you want to do, just, pursue it, because you don't want to give up on something right when you finally got the chance to start it, because that's how resentment grows, And I remember my wife telling me, like, listen, if you're going to do this, we'll figure it out. But you got to take this serious, because now you're dropping out of college and you don't know anything about business, but I'm here to support you. But this can't be a chill spot. This can't be let's just smoke and hang out. And from that moment, I didn't look back. I was just like, okay, well, let's treat it like a business. I had no idea what to do, but I'm like, I'm going to make sure that I do this. And I remember quitting Guitar Center to go work for an insurance company that my boy was working at. I failed the test like 3 times. And I mean, I'm going to the library to study for this. And I failed the test 3 times. I'm like, what is going on? And I feel like it was just God telling me, like, dude, you have it right there. But the problem is that when you work a 9 to 5 or anything, there's nothing wrong with that. When you get into business, it's so difficult because you're now you eat what you kill. So you're not relying on it. You're not clocking in, and it's like, oh, it doesn't matter if today's a slow day or if I slack off or whatever, I'm gonna still get that check because I'm clocked in. So when you change that mindset to say, okay, I've really got to work now because I have, we bought a house. I'm like, I gotta pay bills. Like I gotta make sure that I have money to eat. And I think that was the moment when I was like, okay, cool. Like I can do this. Like I have no choice. I have to figure this out. I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know how to engineer. So I just booked a room and I gathered like 10 artists to come by, got catering done, and did like a formal introduction to the new studio. And we were charging it was like $130 for 8 hours. It was dirt. And I was like, again, fancy studio though, like, we built it up, it was beautiful. So when people are like $130 for 8 hours, it was just like, yeah, okay. So I was working from I remember my wife, she never saw me. I would get up at 9 in the morning and I wouldn't get back home till 4 in the morning the next day. And we opened in November, and I remember by January, she was like, I don't see you. Like, what are you, are you good? You look tired. And I'm like, yeah, but I have to work. I have to build this up to the point where I have a steady clientele so that I can then change it to a strict hourly rate. But even when I was doing that, I was recording in Logic and people are coming in and I'm just like, yeah, I got it. I had a mentor. Shout out Pierre, he's incredible. He taught me a lot of what I know, and what I used. But I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just hitting record, and I know what I want to hear, but I didn't know what compression was and EQ, all this stuff. I didn't know any of that. I'm just like, I gotta figure this out. So that's why I charge so low, because I'm like, all right, let me try to build up a clientele so I can sustain this. Eventually, I'll figure it out.
So your wife doesn't take the job. She stays here with you.
It worked out for her because they opened up a territory here for her.
Okay.
So it kind of worked out for us both.
So the cars kind of just started to line up.
Yeah.
All the signs were pointing towards this is what you gotta do, bro.
Yeah, and it happened multiple times throughout our journey, but
okay.
Yeah, she got to stay, keep the job, and I got to stay and build the business.
Well, I think that's beautiful, because you also said in there that, resentment can eventually eat you up, right?
Yeah.
So if she would have probably not taken the job, or if the opportunity wouldn't have came, maybe you would have felt that a little bit later, right?
Right.
But we're not worried about what would have happened.
Yeah.
I love to see what is happening, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you go into this business not knowing anything about business, just knowing that you have a passion for music, right? That's the overlaying layer that we see throughout the whole journey. You have a passion for music. You figured, cool, I like to make beats, but in order to sustain this passion and to be able to make some beats, I got to become an engineer because I can make money doing that.
Right.
You charge $130 for 8 hours, which is insane. It's crazy. At this time, that studio wasn't where it's at now, right?
No.
Okay,
no.
It's a completely different place. So you're renting a place? So you have that cost too? At that point, like you're renting a space to have your studio?
Oh, no, it's the same spot. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's the same spot.
Yep,
same spot.
Yep.
Okay. What I find interesting is, because now obviously you don't charge $130 for 8 hours, right?
No,
Things have changed. We'll get to all the accolades and all the great things you've been able to achieve. But what I like that you're saying is, I want to build this clientele, right? You were aiming to build this steady clientele.
Yeah.
At some point though, you realize that this clientele that I'm building is $130 an hour for 8 hours clientele. I mean, $130 for 8 hours clientele, right? I'm pretty sure eventually those people were no longer your clients, right? It gets to a point where you're like, damn, my time is worth more than this. I'm starting to get better.
Yeah.
I'm starting to learn the things I'm supposed to learn. Like, I can't do 130 for 8 hours forever, and these aren't the people that are gonna keep paying me.
Absolutely. So what ended up happening was, when I threw that event, I think I invited 10 to 15 artists. I think if it was 15, I would say 12 showed up, maybe 13. And out of those 13 that showed up, 10 actually booked, which to me is great. What happens is, the higher you get, or the higher your price gets, obviously your clientele changes, right? Because then at that point, it's like, oh, well, man, I'm used to paying that. I don't want to pay that no more. That's fine though, right? Because at that point, how serious do they take their craft, right? Because you're going to pay for quality. So what I ended up doing was, sure, I was charging the cheapest, but my plan wasn't to just be the cheapest. It was to show them what I can do. Excuse me. So when I do up the price, they feel like they already won, right? Because they're like, oh, I mean, he's giving me all of this for this price. So if he goes up to 30 an hour or 40 an hour, it's worth it. Because, man, I've been paying this for 4 months. I've saved so much money, and the quality is the best. Excuse me, as far as what they're telling me, they're like, man, this is the best quality out here. That was my goal. My goal was always quality over anything. Quality and also experience. Because they never had someone produce in front of them. You go to a studio and you meet an engineer and it's like, okay, this is the beat, cool. But even if they brought me a YouTube beat, I was still adding stuff to it, and they're getting an experience now. Now they're like, wow, okay, that wasn't in the beat. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm just adding stuff. And so now they're like, man, this feels like a real production studio. This feels like development. Like I'm moving forward as an artist. When I up my price, more than half of them stayed. The other ones, who's to say, they were maybe just trying it out because it was so cheap. But eventually I wanted to get stray away from those type of clients and get to the more serious ones. So once I upped the price, and it wasn't much, it was like 30 an hour or something like that, I would say, yeah, like about more like 80% of the clients that originally started stayed. But what ended up happening was that I started to get other clients that were coming in because we were always word of mouth. So I never did any advertising. I never posted it. Since we opened, all of our clients have been word of mouth, all of them.
I still feel like you still do that somewhat.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because you've built this reputation for being the top studio in the area,
Right.
at least that I'm aware of, right?
Yeah,
like
no,
your quality, like you said, it wasn't quality over quantity. What you said was quality over everything.
Everything.
I
Quality.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's great. And it started to show. And I'll be honest, I'm surprised. I didn't expect for you to tell me that 80% of your clients stuck with you.
Yeah,
I'm really surprised.
It was like 12 clients that stuck out of 15
Yeah.
that showed up, or 10, I don't remember exactly, but they, at least 80% of them, the other ones, they kind of, they weren't really serious anyways, but yeah, they stayed. And then from that moment, that's when the word started spreading, and everybody was like, oh, this guy, this new studio, Black Room Studios, just opened up, and everyone, it's like the new car, right? Everyone wants to get involved.
I think we can tie that back to the other word you used, which was experience, right?
Yeah.
That's what made these people stay.
Right.
Because in a regular business world, bro, you're losing more than half your clients the moment you up your price. Because you got these clients that are used to this, and they're like, damn, Denny, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
But you were providing more than a studio. You say you were doing this experience. Like, I never knew you did that. When people come and bring a beat, like, that's so crazy that you're adding things to the beat.
Yeah,
that already right there, like, you're changing the game for them. You're making the beat around their song, and it's like, bro, you really, and it's an experience you can only get with you.
Right.
Right. So I think that's dope that you found a way to really be able to transition to another price, and the transition happens later on again,
of course,
right? As it keeps you up the price again. But it's cool that you found something to make them stay and to realize that, no matter what the price is, I can't get this anywhere else.
Absolutely.
So I'm forced to stay here.
Yeah. And they also saw that we kept upgrading equipment too. We didn't stay with the same thing. So I would say if you're spending a lot of money in the studio, and every month there's a new piece of equipment in there, and the engineer's excited or the owner's excited, that makes the artist excited too, because they're like, oh, at least, they feel part of it. Because I would tell them, like, man, I just bought this, right? I can't wait to try it out. So now they feel like, okay, my money is being used to better the sound in the studio, to better my sound in the studio. So I always made it clear, like, again, quality is everything. I would upgrade my mic, and I would tell everybody, and everybody's just excited to go in there and try it out. And that's another thing too, I always wanted to have a different sound. So I would look at the studios that were out here, and I would look at the equipment that they had, and I'm like, okay, cool, that's good, that's great, but I need something different. Because if we all sound the same, then what's the point? The point of the studio is to have a sound. I go to Black Room because they have a unique sound. It's kind of like anything, your restaurant, videographers, they have a vision. They have something that's different. If I want this sound, then I'll go to this studio. But for some reason, when I go here, they give me something else. And that's why I wanted to make sure that I always had a completely different vocal chain, whatever it was. And again, I'm still learning as I go, but I'm also doing extensive research to know, okay, this studio over here, they have this right here. I'm hearing the sound. No shade, but it's not the sound that I'm going for. And that's another thing too. I never thought locally, and I feel like a lot of people should dream big, but also think, okay, outside of where you're at. Especially, it doesn't matter where you're at. You can be in a big city, but if you're in a big city, think outside of that big city. Think further ahead, because if you think locally, it's not going to take long before you get to the point where you're on top, right? I mean, if you work hard at it. But then what happens once you get there? You can plateau. And then what happens is you're not the new kid on the block. Now you're just the same, okay, well, you had it. You were the best studio last year, this year. Eventually, someone else is gonna come in and take that spot.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to think outside of it. But if you decide to say, okay, well, I just want to be one of the best studios ever. That's a big title. But what happens is you don't minimize your growth. So you can now say, oh, I want to compete with the studios in New York. People are like, well, you're crazy, bro. Like, where we at? But because of that, you're always thinking of how can I upgrade? How can I update my stuff? And then people start to see that and be like, okay, well, they're not moving like a local studio or a local engineer or a local producer, man. Like, they really are going for it. And that's motivating. To an artist, they're probably like, all right, well, I want to invest in this because who knows? Maybe I can build something with him and that studio, and that can help me. And it's relationship based too, but that was always the mindset when opening the studio. It was quality experience, and it was outside of where I'm at. I love where I'm from, but I wanted to do something for where I'm from by taking outside of it. And that was always the mission. And I thank God that we actually got to do that, but it was because of that reasoning.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that for you, the finish line has always moved.
Yes.
The moment you start to get closer to
God,
it,
yeah, man.
oh, look, there's the next finish line.
Yes.
And
it's
cool because it keeps you in it, right?
Yeah.
It keeps you in it. I love the fact that you were intentional on upgrading, always doing the research and saying, all right, well, I need this piece now.
Yeah.
Oh, Quad got that piece? I need this piece.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm the new Quad,
yes.
right? So it's dope to have that mindset because it keeps you hungry and it's always more, and it's healthy to want more. It's healthy to want more. Just like you said, you don't want to plateau. You don't want to get to that point where it's like, all right, well, I'm the biggest studio in Allentown. Great, cool.
Yeah.
Bro, I've seen you bring producers to your studio from California, from other countries that come to your studio in Allentown and treat this studio the way it's supposed to be treated. So it's like you were able to put these things into place, set a plan, stick to the plan, which is what people have the hardest time doing, right? That's why like all these little traits go back to how you were raised, how you did your day-to-day from 5 years old to 15 till the time you started making beats. All these little values and things you had helped you get to where you're at now, and they helped you see these bigger possibilities, bigger opportunities that you've come across. So
absolutely.
I think it's amazing that you had that experience in the forefront of your goal, because that's the biggest difference with you in any studio, bro. It's an experience. And now the experience has only elevated. It's only gone to bigger and bigger sites because of the things you've been able to accomplish and the things you're still accomplishing. So I wanted to ask you, at what point did you look at this and you're like, wow, I'm doing this studio thing. It's going great. Things are starting to pick up. But at what point do you see that, wow, this could really go to another level? What happens there? You got these steady clients, something happens, but then you're like, there's another side to this that I didn't even know. What happens for you to get to that level?
I think what happened was we were getting big clients, and we were getting big rappers and big artists that were coming in. And we would work with them, we'll produce something, maybe, their biggest record at the time or close to it. And then we had no ownership in it. So we would. At all. And it was a great, these were great opportunities. These were blessings from a producer standpoint, for sure. Because it's like, okay, I'm getting my name out there, but where's the ownership in that, right? And I think that's when we kind of sat down like, okay, well, we need an artist. And that's when we signed our first artist, David True. Rest in peace to my brother, David True. We signed him, and...
So before you get into that, right? What does it mean when you sign an artist? What does that mean? Or what did that mean to you then?
Well, at that time, it was artist development. So we'll sign an artist, and how are we gonna get this artist to become, an A-list artist, let's say, right? Because we always thought big. So we would we were gonna provide obviously all the studio time, the mixing, the mastering, all the production stuff, the videos.
That's obvious. That's what you're great at.
Yeah,
Right.
right. And then outside of the studio, the marketing, the management side of things, whatever it took at the time that we thought to get an artist to be a mainstream artist, let's say.
So let me ask you that, right? Because you're great at being an engineer, a producer at this point.
Yeah.
We know you're good at those things. You sign your first artist. All the other things you mentioned, the videography, the manager, the artist development, how did you know that you needed that too? And how were you able to provide that for somebody at that point?
The management side, you said?
Or even just the whole branding side of an artist. Because you can make us, you can confidently say before you signed your artist, like, yo, I'm a great engineer, I'm a great producer. Cool.
Right.
You can make a song.
Yeah.
Right? But then you also realize that there's a completely different side to this. There's your visuals, there's your branding, there's how you present yourself, there's PR, there's all these other layers that you really haven't dabbled in yet.
Right.
Right? So how did you know to sign an artist that you needed those? And what were the things that were important to you besides what you could provide?
Well, I think we always knew that we needed a way to promote the artist on a bigger platform. So I feel like we always knew that we needed marketing. It was just how or who we were gonna use to market. As far as videos too, we always knew, obviously, with artists, you need a good visual. We always knew that we needed that. We just, again, it's always about finding the right people. So while we were creating in the studio, we were still scouting to see, okay, who are we gonna use to market this? How are we gonna even market it? Let's research to see what is the thing that we need to do to, so-called market, right? Because we don't know anything about any of this. We're kind of just figuring it out as we go. So I think that was the moment where we're like, all right, once we start in the studio, we record the records, we get all that done. Once we have this, we can say, okay, we have some records that we want to drop. Obviously, we need a video. Let's find the right videographer. After that, it's like, okay, we have this here, but we can't just upload this and expect to get famous overnight, right? So that's when we're like, all right, let's scout to find the right marketer, the right marketing, so that we can say, okay, we want to start marketing this guy, New York, Philly, whatever, but what does that entail of, right? Like, what is it that we have to do? Because at that point, we didn't know anything about Facebook ads or anything. We knew that uploading a song is not enough, or uploading a video is not enough. So that's kind of what led us to the marketing side of things.
Okay. And you start to realize that that's a huge part of it, right? That's a major part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how are you able to find the right person that fit at that time, or how were you able to fill that position?
My business partner at the time, he used his connections, and we took a trip to New York, and that's when we found our marketing guy. We met him for the first time, And at that moment was when we decided to say, okay, cool, this guy knows what he's talking about. Let's try him. So it was more like we went to a marketing meeting in New York, because again, we were like trying to figure out how is it that we're gonna, blow this artist up. And I think at that moment when we saw him, we were like, oh man, this guy's great. Like, let's see. Again, and it was the only guy that we ever used too.
First guy you met and first only guy you used?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you know to trust him?
Because of the way that he sold his brand. It was incredible.
Ain't that funny? A marketing guy marketing himself?
But it wasn't just that though. He was vulgar, and he was really, he didn't care.
Okay.
He was so confident in that. The way he did it, the way he spoke, it was really, like, it grabbed the room, and you're just like, yo, this guy, either he knows what he's talking about, obviously, because he's a marketer, or he's brave. Because it was so, think about you sitting in an office building, and they're holding a convention about marketing and music, And this guy comes up and he's talking and he's just like, yeah, look, this is what the fuck artists need to do, whatever. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm like, this is, but then when he spoke and, everything made sense and he broke everything down and it was just like, it wasn't about trust at that moment because he already sold us. It was more about what do we have to lose? Like we're sold on what he's selling and he broke it down. So the proof is there as far as, visually what we can see. Why not just try it and see what happens? So that's what we ended up doing, just saying, hey, like, we need this. We don't have anybody else.
Okay. So you take this leap,
Yeah.
you try it out with your first artist that you signed.
Right.
How does that go?
It went good. He already had a buzz. He was loved already. So it made sense. Extremely talented too. So while we were in the studio working, we already knew, okay, this guy this is all he needs. And at that moment, we started marketing him and we were getting a lot of buzz from him. We were getting a lot. I think what we didn't really know at the time was social media presence. We knew about it. We didn't know too much about it. So
But you guys were also so early in the game.
right.
Like that's the one thing I definitely want to put into context with all this is like you guys are talking Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, all these things to market, but you're really at the point where it starts to showcase. Like you're in the beginning stages.
I don't
of
even
all
think
of that.
Instagram ads was a thing.
Yeah.
I think it was just Facebook ads.
Okay.
So when we tried to do all this, social media, I mean, you're talking about Instagram where it was just pictures at the time. It wasn't videos. So we didn't know exactly what to do to stand out online. And some artists are great at that. Some artists are okay, they need help. But ultimately, I mean, we're the label, right? So we have to figure this out. So I think that's kind of what was our next step in trying to find out, because again, starts in the studio, outside the studio. Okay, we got the marketing guy, but now it's like social media presence. How do we build this up? What do we have to do to get this artist out there, and how can we sell his story? But that's also not guaranteed either. In this thing, nothing's guaranteed, especially when you're signing an artist, especially when you don't know what to do. You're kind of just going off of whatever you feel and piggybacking off of what you see online, and you're like, oh man, that seems like it works, let's try this here. At that time, it was very much geared towards where you're at too. So we're in a small town. How do we take this out? Remember, we always thought outside of where we're at. We never thought locally. But it was difficult because you're coming from a small town to a new place where you don't know anybody. And if you know some people, it's still not enough. So we had to figure out how is it that we can get his, social media presence up there and get our sound and the artist to blow up in these neighboring cities with the little knowledge that we had.
So you start seeing that the social media presence is a huge part of it. It's important.
Yeah.
It's a major part of it. What happens with that artist?
We continued to work. We kept working, we kept dropping. I think what ended up happening wasn't necessarily with the artist. It was just more of just changes in the studio. So at that moment, we really didn't have the time to fully invest into the artist, and drawbacks, change of management. So it was a lot of business related things. It wasn't necessarily the artist. The artist did an immaculate job. He was always doing what he had to do. So no complaints with the artist ever. It was just more like just a lot of changes in behind closed doors that was happening. And that's probably why the artist maybe felt like, hey, maybe I should just continue to do my own thing while you guys figure this out. So, because one thing, I don't ever want to hold someone back. I don't want to hold an artist back. So, the artist was just like, cool, while you guys figure y'all stuff out, let me go ahead and let me just keep doing what I got to do. So I think that's kind of what happened with that. And he continued to work. It wasn't like we stopped working completely, but once you get into the business side of things, that's the number one thing, because if you can't, once you have issues with business, I think that's the first thing that you have to address, because if not, I mean, it's going to affect outside, the artist or whoever's around you. So that's one of the things that I was like, okay, let me just focus on this for now. And I'll obviously explain it to the artists too and let them know, because I don't want them to feel like they're trapped or, they can't do anything. It's like never that. It's like, I'm here if you need me, but this is what's going on. So just give me a little bit of time so I can correct this and I can fix this. And then once that's all done, back to working.
And I think that says a lot about you, because in the industry, they don't even give you that warning.
No, I don't. No.
They're not going to tell you, hey, sorry, we're going to put things on hold. We got to figure things out. We'll get back to it now.
Right.
It's like, just
sit down.
That's it.
Yeah, they shelf you.
Yeah.
But no, we never tried to do that. We always wanted to make sure that we were clear with the artists and they know what's going on, because it's not fair to them, and they're not doing anything wrong. They just want to work, and it's our responsibility. I mean, we signed them.
Yeah.
So we have to provide them the tools that they need. And if we can't, they're owed an explanation to be like, okay, well, why am I not hearing from you guys? And why can't I get in the studio? And I was a big advocate for that. Oh, sorry about that. So yeah, we communicated all that. We let them know, hey, this is what's going on. And, we're going to get back to work, but you're not tied down to anything. You're free to do whatever you got to do. And like I said, once we figure everything out, we'll get back to it.
I like that. So you figure everything out.
Yeah.
Let's jump to that part. You figure everything out. What's the next step for the Black Room, and what happens now that you kind of got a taste of managing an artist, right? Because you were wearing all the hats. You were the manager, producer, engineer.
Yeah.
You were learning the game as you're doing this. Because the one thing I keep hearing you saying is you jumped into all these things without knowing what you was doing.
Right.
And along the way, you started learning little bits and pieces that help you put the whole picture together, right? So at what point does that last piece come into the picture and truly puts this picture together? What happens?
The last artist that we had, he was, at this moment, we saw our first artist. He's now doing his own thing, and we run into our new artist, a young artist at the time, and that was when when you're dealing with younger artists, their world is different, right? So they view the world differently, they're experiencing the world differently, and that was the breath of fresh air that we needed. Because at that moment it was like, okay, what is going on here? This you don't expect a 14-year-old kid to come in and just shock you with talent. It's like not in this day and age, but at that time, most 14-year-old kids were just messing around or whatever, But when you meet one that's like, how long you been doing this? You're 14. It's a few times. It's like, and you're this good? Nah, beginner's luck, And then 2 more sessions is the same thing. It's just like, that was the moment where it's like, all right, we need to sign this kid. We need to figure this out right here, because now we have more experience. Now, we have other business associates now that can help, pull this forward. I think that's when we were like, all right, this is definitely going to work. And once you have all the tools set in place, all you need to do is develop. All you need to do is develop the artist. And I think that's what we poured into more than ever, was developing this artist, because he had the skill, he had the social presence that we weren't aware of. We knew what we had to do with the first artist or what was missing, and we were trying to figure it out, but we just didn't know. We were ignorant to it. But then you have a 14-year-old kid come out of nowhere and he's just like doing it all. It was like, okay, that he can show us, we can't show him. He's like, oh yeah, this is what I do and this is how I do it. It was just like, all right. So all we have to worry about is just the music and the marketing. because you're doing everything else. Okay, cool. It was a layup. And that's what we did with the second artist. And at that moment, that's what changed our lives.
Life changing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Justin Rory is your artist.
Yeah.
I still remember this. Obviously, we live in the same town. I still remember this time when you go from being the best studio out here, for sure at that time, still one of the best studios out here. And we start to see a whole different lane now. You're managing an artist and things start to happen, major things.
Yeah.
What happens with Justin Rory?
We were working for 2 years. So he came back 14. And at 16, I think he just turned 16 at that time. Or was turning 16, sorry. We dropped our first video.
So you met him and didn't drop anything for 2 years?
No.
Wow. Why?
We were just waiting for the right songs. I think it was just the excitement of just recording songs and just getting in the studio as much as we can and trying to get him in the studio as much as he can, you know, because I was still running the studio. I was running a business. So it wasn't fair to him that, you know, I mean, this kid is ready to work. You know, he's always ready to get it done. So, you know, there was times where I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll get you in on Monday. And then Monday, I'm booked up the whole time. I'm like, yo, my bad, bro. I got to get you in Wednesday. And, you know, he was always, you know, great attitude, was just like, cool, just, you know, like, just ready to go, just ready to work. So when he did work, it was so exciting. It was so like, man, like, this kid is incredible. Like, we got to get him in more. And I think because of that, it kind of delayed it a little bit. Because again, I was focused. I still had to run the business, of course, but we were just trying to find the right song. You know, like just trying to just keep working, trying to find the right song, trying to find the right plan too. Because again, we wanted to make sure that this time around, you know, we didn't have no excuses. We had, you know, the marketing, the money for the marketing, all the songs, you know, mix and master, ready to go. You know, videos shot, everything. So we end up dropping our first single October 2018. First song, first video, went to New York to shoot it. And we didn't know really what was gonna happen, but what I did know was that every song that we dropped at that moment needed to hit 1 million views. And I didn't care how much it cost either. We needed to hit 1 million views because my vision was to the world, who is this new kid and how is he hitting these numbers? So that was the focus. So when I sat with management and marketing business partners, it was that. It was, what is it gonna take for us to get this song to 1 mil? And once we ironed out all those details, it was just like, okay, cool. Drop the video, but we need to hit 1 mil every month. And my plan was every month drop a new song and every song hit 1 mil. So we drop October to November, obviously we hit 1 mil. And you know, things are starting to shake up. I remember he had like, was it 7,000 followers? By the time the month ended, it was like 23, 25,000. So it's going up. And I'm like, okay, cool, like let's shoot another one. We shoot another one. Unfortunately, the business wasn't done right with that. So it gets taken down. So we're like, okay, you know, we lost our song for November. We shot another video. We didn't really like it. So we're like, all right, let's get back to the drawing board. By this time, November's happening. We're in the studio working. We create Word to Leezy. So play a melody, you know, Rory loves it. He's like, this is the one. Make the beat in like 30 minutes, whatever. He gets in the booth, does the song. I think the song was done like an hour. He gets out, you know, again, social media presence. He knows exactly what he's doing online. He's like, let's do a, you know, a clip. Let's do a preview. does a preview, you know, we're having fun, boom, I throw a ski mask on, you know, where everybody's just having fun, whatever. He drops that, it goes viral. It goes viral. I mean, you know, and I'm like, okay, what's happening here? We start to get calls, he starts to get emails and calls, because one thing I didn't want him to do was to put that he had management or that he was signed or anything like that on his bio. So and he never did. So what ended up happening is, again, you know, the world is seeing this young kid, he's doing numbers, his songs are doing great, previews are doing amazing, and they're just like, all right, so we start getting, you know, emails, hey, I'm such and such, I work for, you know, Sony, I work for, you know, Republic, you know, so now labels are calling, and I'm like, man, this is crazy.
And why was it your intention to never put that on his bio or to put that he was managed or anything? What was the intention behind that?
My thought process behind that is if you go into, so again, I think differently, right? If you go to somebody's page, nowadays is different, right? You see somebody, they say they have management, it's like, okay, cool, like, all right, this guy takes his stuff serious. My thought process was, this kid is 15, he's 16. If he shows the world, or the execs, I guess, that he has no management, I mean, they're gonna look at it like, well, we need this kid. I mean, we talk directly to him, that's great. You know, like, we don't have to talk to, you know, somebody else, like, all right, this is easy. But then once he starts responding back, it's like, hey, you know, let me put you in contact with my management. Let me put you in contact with my label.
So it's a great way to reel them in.
To reel them in, yeah.
Smart.
So that was my thought process behind that.
And it worked.
And it worked, yeah. So we started getting emails, we started taking meetings. And we didn't even drop the song yet. Again, this is all just off a preview. We met with 2 labels at the time.
What labels were those?
It was Def Jam and Columbia.
Just off a preview?
Just off a preview, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And Def Jam, funny enough, we actually went to Def Jam before we dropped. Before we dropped the first video, we went to my business partner, Ghai. He got us a meeting at Def Jam. And we went in and we're showing them like all the records that we have and everything. And they're just like, no, it's good, it's great, it's cool. But again, I mean, you know, he hasn't dropped anything. Like, we don't know, you know, we're not willing to take a chance on that. I don't blame him, you know, because it's a risk, right? So then after that, we met with Columbia and, you know, wanted to sign with Columbia. Like, you know, shout out Lou, my brother. I mean, we were like, man, we found it. That's it. We don't want to meet with nobody else. You know, like, this is the label that we want to sign with. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it done in time. It was something with, you know, execs, or people were busy, and, you know, it was a lot going on. So at that moment, I was like, okay, well, you know, let's drop the video, right? So this is now March. And I was like, okay, we're gonna drop March 1st. So we went to Florida, we shot the video for Word Elise. We shot 2 videos that time. Excuse me.
2 videos for the same song?
2 different videos.
2 different videos for the same song?
No, 2 different songs, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
So again, my plan was still the same. It was like, okay, cool. Well, you know, this song went viral. Let's shoot a video for this, get it to 1 mil. The next video that we just shot here, that's the next single, get it to them. It was always just the same thing, because it's like, eventually we're gonna get a deal. Someone's gonna, you know, hit us up and we're gonna work something out. We end up shooting the video sometime in January, I believe. March comes and it's like, okay, I wanna drop the song. I wanna drop the video, the song. We drop the song, we drop the video, start doing our marketing, same plan. The song goes crazy. I mean, everybody is playing the song. Like, I remember just getting tagged because everyone was doing videos to the song. I mean, it goes viral. Like, at this moment here, it's like, okay, well, what is happening? Like, what do we do? How do we capitalize off of this? And then next thing you know, Rory was like, hey, this person at Interscope is hitting me up. This person at Epic. this person at Rock Nation, or not Rock Nation. I'm sorry, Republic. Who else? Republic, Capital. I mean, you name it. It was damn near every label started reaching out. So we started taking meetings everywhere. And I'm like, hey, post it. Like, if you're at Def Jam, we went back to Def Jam and we met with Stephen Victor. We met with everybody. And I'm like, yo, get in front of the logo, post it. You're meeting with all these labels. Like, let's stir up some stuff. I mean, let's show the world and and the labels that we're meeting with everybody, and everybody's interested.
On another note, that's like also helping you in your business, because all these labels are seeing, all right, we're not the only ones competing for this kid, right? So in the business side of things, that's also creating that where his values.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my plan with that, was to say, okay, well, let's post all these meetings. We met with Universal, Warner, you name it, man. I mean, we were everywhere, and we ended up signing with Interscope.
Why?
They had just an incredible roster. I mean, you look at Interscope and what they've done. I mean, they're, the Lakers of the NBA, of the music industry. So we were like, all right. Eventually we wanted to sign with Lou at Columbia, 1,000%. That was the main thing. But because we couldn't get it done, I remember Lou telling us, listen, sign, get your deal, bro. You guys deserve it. I'm here if you guys need me. It doesn't matter. Till this day, that's my brother. He's always supported us. So he was like, yo, get it done, man. It's cool. We're still gonna work. It doesn't matter. Because to me, I felt like we owed him loyalty. Yo, look, bro, this is what we want to do. You brought us in first, and he was just like, it's all good. Don't worry about it.
But when you say you can't get it done, what does that entail?
I mean, it could be a numerous amount of things, right? Like politics in the industry, and the labels, who's to say what was happening? All I know for sure is that he was trying to get it done. I believe at the time he had TJ too. So TJ and Robert the same age. So probably the label looked at it like, you just signed this, how are you gonna be able to manage both, And maybe, that was probably the case, hey, maybe do this first and then do that, But Lou's not the type of guy to say, yo, just wait. He's like, nah, look, sign, do what you gotta do. We're gonna work regardless, we'll build it up, so don't worry about it. So he was super supportive of that. Yo, get your deal, bro. Go crazy. I'm a fan. I'm here if y'all need me. So that's kind of what I feel maybe took place. But again, it could be anything, One minute they want to sign you.
You clearly never got a real offer from them.
We did, but it wasn't. No, actually we didn't, because remember, everything is happening so fast, right? So every week we're having 2 meetings with a different label here and there. So eventually you have to say, okay, when are we gonna stop taking meetings? And our lawyers telling us okay, well, let's start, reaching out, or if they're gonna reach out to me, let's start accepting these offers. Let's start getting these offers and sitting down and say, what are we gonna do? Mm-hmm. Because he's hot right now. So what you don't wanna do is you don't wanna make him wait too long and
to try to find the perfect deal.
To find the perfect deal, because what we were really focused on was the team. Who's working? Who's gonna be the team that work our records? Who's gonna be the team that's gonna be marketing us now? And so that's really what we didn't care too much about making the most money up front. Because sometimes, they'll offer you, $2 million up front, but you don't know who's running anything. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors, and who do you call if, your record got to come out. And so we were really focused on that. So we were more focused on, obviously, what label is going to provide us with the best service. And we don't want the most money up front. We'll take a better back-end deal. So that was really the focus. And the determining factor was signing with Interscope.
So there's labels that will offer you money without a team. This is a common thing that you see amongst labels, not necessarily without a team, but without somebody to guide you or certain things to really put in place to kind of recoup that money, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, when a label signs you and gives you money, that's a loan, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
So they have a team. Like most labels, I think every label has a team. It's just about, do you have access to them, right? Like, are you able to say, hey, you know, these producers haven't gotten paid yet. You know, like I would talk to my business partner and I'll say, hey, we need producer contracts, producer agreements done. Because again, I was the producer too. So I'm, you know, it's my label, but I'm also the producer and the engineer. So I'm also doing a lot of the work that our A&R should be doing, or you know, she was doing too. But I'm more in tune with the fact that a lot of producers now, they don't get paid, or it's hard for them to get paid. And I didn't want that on my name, at least, you know, because again, if I'm there and I'm a producer and I'm getting paid and it's like this guy worked with Rari and he didn't get paid, you know, it can somehow get back to me. So I was always on top of that, like, you know, hitting these producers up, like, yo, you know, what's your lawyer's information? Who's your management? What's your fee? Okay, cool. Like, well, I'm doing a lot of the label work too, because I know that it's hard for producers who don't know too. Remember, there's a lot of producers that don't know what to do in the industry. And some of them don't have management or lawyers, or, you know, when they get screwed over because, you know, they're just like, you know, hey, just sign this producer agreement. And it's like, okay, cool, we'll give you $3,000. And it's like, all right. And then once the record comes out, they're like, yo, I didn't get paid. And it's like crickets. So I was always making sure that every time, any producer that we worked with got paid on time, you know, got published, and whatever it is that they needed to get done, and we agreed on that from our end, we got it done. You know, so I can stand on that to say, like, we never had an issue with any of that.
So you're learning all these things about the industry as you're doing this.
Yeah.
Because again, you're the producer, you're the engineer. Are you the manager at this point as well?
Acting manager, because
Okay.
we really didn't have an actual manager, you know, so we were just like, until we found the right one, we were like, all right, we'll just, you know, we'll figure it out.
Okay. So you get this deal with Interscope. What happens once you sign a deal? What does that look like for an artist that's never been through that, or those that are curious to know?
I mean, it's a blessing, right? Like, it's like you get to sign to one of the biggest labels in the industry. But I think the way we looked at it was, it felt like we just got drafted to the NBA. And we're not starting, we're on the bench. But then you look at who's starting and you see J. Cole, Playboi Carti, Juice WRLD. You know, you're just like, nah, this is crazy. Like, all right, hold on. Like, so the pressure starts to, you know, to sink in, and you're just like, all right, we celebrated, but we got to get to work, you know? And right away, they're like, we want to drop an EP. So I'm like, all right, well, you know, what do we do? Like, man, like, what do we need for the EP? Obviously, we need songs and all that, but it's like, what's the theme of this, whatever. And again, I never try to impose, excuse me. I never tried to impose or take creative control when it came to artists. You know, I know A&Rs do that sometimes. Could be for good reasoning, obviously, or, you know, for selfish, whatever the case is. I personally always wanted to make sure that whatever the artists want to do, like, it's like, okay, cool, like, let's do it. Sure, there's times where, you know, A&R is like, man, look, this is the single, we got to do this, we got to do that. And we're learning at the time. So we're like, okay, if we believe this might be the single, but if you guys really feel like this is it, you know, we'll trust it, you know. But we were kind of just, like I said, learning as we go, and kind of just going off of what, again, the label is telling us it's best to do, you know? So that's what we were, I would say, focused on, was just trying to make sure that we were doing right by the label, you know, without sacrificing too much as to what the brand is or what the artist wants to do. So just trying to find middle ground.
So in that, it starts to be a plan on how you drop your music, how you shoot videos. Is that what you mean? Like they...
Yeah, but it wasn't to the, so when you sign to a major, like they're not control, at least from my experience, they weren't controlling to the point where saying like, you can't do this or you can't do that. They always gave us what we wanted. You know, they were always open to any ideas. I mean, to me, we had a great team. We had an amazing team at Interscope. You know, other people will feel differently, you know, and that's fine. That's okay, you know, because not everything is going to be perfect, you know, but to me, I feel like communication was amazing, you know, the way that they invested, you know, again, it was great. But yeah, I think we needed to figure out a plan on how we were going to deliver an EP and how we were going to start getting these bigger features and how we were going to start building this brand up from zero, or not zero, but you know, it felt like zero, signing to a major, to a B-list artist and then graduate to an A-list artist. Like that was my plan. That was what we shared, was like, okay, this is the goal right here, you know? But the pressure sets in because it's like, if you drop a single and it's not doing the numbers that you anticipate, you're like, man, is this not working? And then it's like, well, who do you blame? You know, it's like, because if they're like, this is the single right here, and you're like, all right, cool, let's do it. And then it's like, it's not working, you know, then it's like, all right, well, how do we pivot from this? You know, and then the artist is like, man, I wanted to drop this. So now you got to make sure the artist is happy too. So, you know, it's like it's a lot to navigate when you don't know. Yeah. You know, because you're just trying to figure it out as you go. And, you know, when you fail, and you might not fail, but in your mind, you're like, okay, is the label upset because this record isn't doing what it's supposed to, but this one did? So as we're learning and progressing, we're still in the studio, like we gotta hit them, we gotta give them some hits, man. We gotta give them some music that's like, they see like, okay, they're working, they're not comfortable, you know?
You're going back to what got you there.
Right.
Right? You're going back to that hustle, that grind, them 2 years without even dropping a song.
Yeah.
Right? Going back to the chalkboard and really putting the work in.
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember around this time, you guys started getting all these bigger and bigger features. Can you tell me about like how that worked out, what features you guys had, and sort of what started to happen with his career from there?
We did Stunner for Vegas, Lil Papa. We did a song with Lil Papa. We big producers too, Tay Keith. We had Marshmello on one of the songs. Gunna, so we did our song with Gunna. That was the biggest feature that we did. That came about, I mean, we recorded, we were in the studio just making records, and I played a loop from my boy Pit the Kid, shout out Pit the Kid, and it just felt like a Gunna vibe. So we had the song, and then Interscope tells us like, hey, listen, you know, we're dropping a project. We dropped the project, we're dropping a deluxe. And they're like, you know, project is doing good. Is there any features that you have in mind? And we're like, yeah, I mean, we have a few. And I believe they brought up Gunna, and we're like, oh, we have a song for him. But even with that, it's never guaranteed because, you know, the artist has to do their research and they have to like the record, obviously, and you know, so we're like, yeah, I mean, we have a record. We think it might fit for him, you know, it'd be a perfect fit for him. And we send the record, and, you know, he loved it. And he was just like, sure, yeah, let's do it. And agreed to do the video too. And, you know, it was uphill from there, man.
What happens after that drops?
After that drops, things get a little shaky at the time because of miscommunication and a lot of personal stuff. So one thing I learned is the artist deals with so much that it's easy to say, you know, oh, you blew your opportunity, or you did this and you could have done this, but you're 16 years old and you sign a major deal. you're still figuring out life as it is. You're a kid. You know, you don't know a lot. And I feel like it's easy to get misinformation, and it's easy to be convinced of things that are happening. And at that age, you don't really know what or how to handle or navigate certain situations, right? So at that moment, me and Mirari distanced ourselves because of, again, miscommunication, misinformation, and things that were being told, and to him at least. And I had reached out to him to say, hey, listen, you know, like, let's figure this out, you know, because obviously we have a record deal, like, we can figure this out. It's not that big of a deal, but I think it was just a lot on him, you know, and it was a lot of, you know, family and people in his ear that were just like, things are happening that he just didn't know what or who to believe. So at that moment, he, again, took time off, you know, but when you have a record drop like that, that's that big, and then out of nowhere you disappear, from a human standpoint, of course, you have to understand it. You know, if somebody's going through something and they need time to, you know, figure things out, because it's the industry, it's a lot, you know. Anybody would understand that, but you're dealing with business, you know. So in business, it's like, okay, cool, we gave you some time, but what's happening here? And the minute that you can't fulfill a contract, it's like, okay, cool, listen, we're just gonna just part ways, because what are we doing here? You know, we're investing a lot of money and a lot of time and resources, and nothing's getting done. You know, so that was when we decided to, because Rari took his break, to part ways with Interscope, because at that moment it's like, okay, well, we can't force anybody to do anything. But they understood, though. You know, it's no hard feelings or nothing like that. It was just like, okay, well, you know, while he's taking his time, I mean, we'll just end things here. And that's kind of what happened.
I think once you threw the word business back in there, it kind of brought it all back, right?
Yeah.
You can go through things in your personal life. That's cool as a human. Like you said, it's normal. It's okay. We understand.
Right.
But if at the same time you're running a business, it can only be so long that your personal's affecting your business.
Right.
The moment the personal starts to show itself in the business aspect, you can really lose your business. And any entrepreneur, any business person would tell you that. You know how many days we both wake up and we're like, I don't want to do this today.
Every day.
I said, we got all those reasons back home that we gonna do what we have to do today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think when you say, you know, it's an age thing, I can see that too, because, you know, it's an age and a life experience thing that eventually you start to put these other things that matter a little bit more, even ahead of yourself.
Right.
Right. I had a gentleman talk about this on the podcast earlier, and he was like, you know, he's come to see that every man he's come across is facing some type of depression. And he said it's because we, as men, we're supposed to give so much, and that's what we do. We give, and we never have that like alone moment to really reflect, or anybody checking in on us to give to us. So it's like, imagine a kid going through that. I can only imagine a kid going through that.
That's why when he was going through his stuff, I never responded, and it was tough, right? Because this is like family, and he's, you know, going through his stuff. But what I realized, no one cares. No one cares about the relationship side of things, right? And what's not together anymore, and what we built. No, like, this is the real world, is, especially online, they just want to be entertained. So I know that, though. I have the experience. So I don't care for the online back and forth or whatever. It does nothing to me. It does nothing for me. It doesn't affect me in any way, but I don't expect him to have that. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to sit here and bash him and, you know, and say anything negative about him, whatever. He could do that all day. That's cool. but I have experience, so it's not fair to him, you know what I mean? And, you know, he's grown so much since that. You know, he's a grown man now, you know, and our relationship is great now, and we're building that up. But when we have those talks, we laugh about it because it's like, he'll say it himself. He's like, bro, we were young, we didn't know what we were doing. You know what I mean? And people make mistakes, you know what I'm saying? But in this day and age, it's like, you make one mistake and, you know, it's over for you.
Yeah, it can cost you everything.
It can cost you everything, you know? But I always say, like, Instagram isn't real. It's not real life. Because you would go online and you get messages like, oh, like, I can't believe you did this, whatever. And it's like, you put the phone down, you go outside, nothing's happening, nothing changed. And I think I had to realize that at one point. I'm like, I can't let this affect me because it's like, my business is still good. My family's great, you know, my health is good. So it's like, okay, let me just focus on what I have to do, you know what I mean? Because eventually, you know, this can get resolved. You know, was no violence in it, nobody, you know, there's not real beef. It's all miscommunication and a misunderstanding, you know. But I'm not gonna sit here and live online to be like, excuse me, to try to, sure, people would say, hey, you should clear your name because X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, dude, I don't gotta do that. I'm not gonna sit here and try to clear my name because I know I didn't do anything, or I know I didn't do what I'm being accused of. And I'm not gonna sit here and go back and forth. I'm not doing that. People that know me, know my character, know that I'm not that type of person anyways.
I honestly think it's the best way to go about it.
Absolutely.
And not a lot of people are smart enough or patient enough to take that route.
Right.
And you dabbling into that and answering and doing certain things like that, you never know, that could have cost you your business.
Yeah.
Right? With me, I've come across that dealing with an artist, being a manager of an artist for a short amount of time, and just seeing how much pressure it gets to the artist. It's like they fall in love with this craft. They come into the game with like the love for the craft, the love for the music, the passion they have for it. And then they reach this level where it's like, oh shit, this is gonna work out.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, it flips into this pressure now with social media, with the record label, with everything, where it's like it's an image now that they've built out of love and passion that now it's completely turned on them. And then now it's like, oh my God, I gotta keep up with this.
Yep.
What do I gotta do next for the people following me or the people that's right now here with me to be impressed again?
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And it starts to be something for people that are in it. Like outside looking in, we just looking in, we're like, yo, bro, what's next? But you being in it, it becomes this whole world of like, damn, yo, what am I supposed to do?
When do you get to rest? Because you're always a creative.
When do you get to rest?
You're always a creative. You're being constantly judged. Your fans are like, what are you doing next? What's this? I remember one time we had a session in LA, and 6-hour flight, we get out, go to the hotel, maybe 3 hours, 2 hours to ourselves, studio session, 12-hour session. Repeat the next day, 5 days straight. Again.
Talking 60 hours.
And again, you know, you have to, you're working because you're getting billed for this. So it's not free. So while we're in there, it's like, what are we doing? Let's get to work. And I remember Rory's like, yo, I'm not a fucking machine, bro. I'm not a robot. Like, he's like, what do they expect? Like, you know, like, there's gonna be days when we make one song, there's gonna be days when we make 4. And I agreed. I'm like, yeah, because, you know, you're being forced. It's not, the minute that music isn't fun anymore, it's the same exact thing as working a 9 to 5 at that point, that feeling of like clocking in and out. That's not what music is. That's not what creating is. Creating should always be fun. Making mistakes is okay. How many times I made a beat and I did something that I'm not supposed to do, or the mouse slides a certain way and it does a roll, and I'm like, oh, it's supposed to always be fun. You're supposed to always be learning. The minute that it feels like a job, it takes away the passion, the love that you built to create. It takes all that away. And I remember one time we wake up and I think we were leaving the next day. I don't even think we had a session. And I remember Ryan's like, yo, like, what was there to do? Like, fuck it, let's go to the zoo. We just went to the fucking zoo, like, but and I feel like people forget, like, dude, like, artists are humans, like, you know, it's not just what you see on, they're actors too, like, and what I mean by actors is like, a lot of times they're taking a picture or they're posing for something or whatever, they don't want to fucking do that, but they're just doing it because they know that it's a part of their job, and a lot of the great ones do it very well. I'm not saying they don't enjoy it, but there's times where they may not want to post all fucking day or 2 days, but they're so afraid of the pressure of like, yo, what happened? What's going on? Because it's like a drug to fans. Like they have to keep seeing and keep interacting with you. You know, it's a lot of pressure on the artist. That's why I never judged a 16-year-old kid or any artist for having human moments, because you don't get to experience that, and especially if you're a fan, you don't get to see that, you know. And it's like, no, this is real life. You know what I mean? Like he's going through something, whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's like, yo, sometimes you got to give artists their time to just figure stuff out, because you're trying to navigate at such a young age, and like you said, as men, there's a lot of pressure on us as it is. And if you don't have that, if you don't have anybody to help you with that, how do you get experience without, you know, having experience? It's like a double-edged sword, right? It's like you graduate college and you get a degree, and then you go and you try to get a job with your degree, but they're telling you, well, you don't have experience with your degree. And it's like, yeah, but I need to get the job to get the experience. It's the same exact thing, you know? And I feel like people tend to forget about that, or not even pay mind to that, because they don't know. And again, they're not supposed to know, right? I mean, they're fans, right? So they're just living vicariously through the artists that they love, you know. But they're still human, you know. There's still time for them to grow and figure things out. In this day and age, though, people don't want to hear that. You got to be perfect.
Those that don't understand, like you said, they don't even know that they don't understand, because they don't ever experience it.
No.
There's so many artists that would love to make it, and they don't understand what making it comes with.
Right.
Right? They don't understand that, just like you said, your NBA reference is beautiful. It's like the moment you sign a record deal, you just got drafted.
Yeah.
Just got drafted. All the points you had in college don't even matter.
That's
right?
how it
You
felt.
never scored in the NBA. So what does that matter? You had a great college career, buddy. Cool. Now it's time to really work.
And now you're playing with the best in the world.
Yeah.
It's not just, it's literally the best players in the world.
Yeah.
Signing is the same exact thing. Sure, I mean, everything is, you know, subjective, right? You may not, but these players were great enough, or artists were great enough to get a major record deal. So now, you know, they built up to be, even if they're B-list artists, you know, they're still streaming, they're still touring. Like, it's a new world that we have no idea on what to do or how to do it. Sure, again, we have my business partner. He has the experience. Mm-hmm. You know, he's done everything with Akon and Convict Music, T-Pain, Lady Gaga, all of that, sure. But different times, different generations. So now we're like, okay, you know, thank God we had him for that, you know, but it's like, we're dealing with a 16-year-old that his world is completely different. So how do we use this and say, okay, cool, like, what, we can't tell him, hey, don't post this and you gotta post. He knows what to do with that. So we just have to try to amplify it to make it into something that's generational, that's you know, that people want to see, that people want to continue to follow and grow with. That was the only thing that we can do and try to do to help, you know, the goal for the long run, so to say.
So I see that. I love the fact that you said, you know, you had your business partner experience this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You experienced it about 5 years ago,
Yeah.
right? Now I would like to ask you this, right? Or him was probably like 10, 15, 20 years ago with what he was doing, right? With
like
Akon, Lady Gaga, T-Pain. Then you get into this world, you start to see some success, and you also start to learn the game with Rari, right? So if I bring you to the present and I talk about now,
Right. Right.
What would you say? Because the game changed just as much as it did from T-Pain and Akon to Justin Rory to now, right?
Yeah.
The game keeps changing.
Yeah.
What do you say after learning all these things that you've learned in the industry, all these ways to maneuver and kind of manage an artist? What would you say to somebody that wants to get into this and how they should go about presenting themselves or how they should, look at the game now?
I think that every artist needs to find the right like-minded people to be a part of their journey. I think that's one of the most important things. I feel like I had that and that helped me along the way. Even if you lose, because you're gonna lose friends in this business and you're gonna lose business partners and, or find new ones, or maybe your business partner wants to venture off into something else, it's fine. But I think you need to have a strong team that's crazy enough to believe in what you're doing and to support you and to actually make the job of the artist easier. Because like I said, it's very difficult for these artists to navigate what they have to do. And I always felt like the artist should know the business, but also if you have the right people around you and you trust them, then you can worry about what you're great at, which is the music. You know what I mean? Like, when you're in the studio, you don't want to be stressed out about, what do I got to do tomorrow with this? And your team already got that set up for you. So when you're in the studio, you're being creative, you're focusing on what you do best. And if I were to say right now for an artist what they should focus on, obviously I'm going to say the music, I'm going to say the quality, but also what's your story? What are you... stick to that. Don't try to fit in. Don't try to do what everyone is doing, And I know that's been said before, but the truth of the matter is that you need to be unique in somehow, some way, and you need to sell it and be confident enough to say, hey, listen, this is me. Be unique with how you present your stuff. Be unique with how you, package your brand, to sell it. But, when it comes to what you want to do, make sure that you stick to that and make sure that it's not something that's rinse, wash, repeat. Believe in what you're doing, because it's not that it's impossible. It's just that you just haven't figured out how to get it to the masses. So I believe that, again, the team is the most important thing, and just sticking to your sound. Because that's what I did, and it worked. I believed in the sound that we were creating, but I also believed in quality too. So if you have those three things, I feel like you're gonna see the progress bar move.
Quality over everything.
Yes.
Quality over everything is something that no matter at what point or stage in your life you were in, is stuck.
Right.
What are you doing now, or better yet, even because I seen you starting to do this, right? Even when the transition of, all right, this artist of mine needs a break, he needs a personal thing, in your head, cool, I need to keep working, right? I need to keep developing, I need to build these relationships with other producers, I need to start focusing on me a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
I think as creatives, there's times where the reason we're entrepreneurs is because we want to have control of our future.
Absolutely.
We want to be able to say, yo, this plan failed because I tried it and it failed. Cool, I moved on to the next one that I could try and I made it work. So at a certain point, you start to take your producing career a little more serious, right? You have this time, you start to do things. How did different doors start to open up for you as a producer?
So when that happened with Robert, that was 2021. I think what I ended up doing was saying, okay, this was a lot. I still have my business, and I felt like I was neglecting the business, but it was because obviously we just signed a major deal. So, I'm obviously gonna put a pause on this. So I said, all right, let me get back to this, and, just started working in the studio again, and, just working with other artists just to keep my mind off of things, and really didn't put myself first as a producer for about 2 years after that, 3 years after that. The reason being is because, again, I have my family, focusing on, my daughter, my wife, obviously. And just, it was tiring, man. I mean, it was a lot. It's a lot to deal with an artist, and not in a negative light, but it's just, it's draining overall, just the work itself. But you don't feel the aftermath of that until you're not doing it anymore. Once you're in it, you're constantly going, and you're just like, all right, I gotta do it. And again, when you love it, you're not tired. You may feel tired, but you have the energy to get up the next day and say, I'm ready to go, let's go. Running on 5 hours of sleep, 6 hours of sleep, but this is what you wanted all your life. So you become and you adjust to that lifestyle, right? So you're constantly working. The minute that stops, that's when it hits you like, damn, like, I've been on overdrive for the past, 2 years. So that's when you're like, all right. It hits though differently because you're used to going, 100 miles per hour, but now you're like 40. So you're like, man, like, you start to blame certain things. You start to look for excuses, like, oh man, like, what is going on? Like, but I think that's what I ended up doing. I took a few years off to just, focus on the business again, just keep that afloat, keep that going. Thank God it was great. It's still great. And then I decided, I said, you know what? Let me focus on me. Let me put me first. I've always put artists first, after artists, and I never really put myself out there. I always kept my relationships though, because in this industry, it's relationship based. If you're a piece of shit, the industry's gonna know, and it's like high school. Man, that's one thing I learned in 2 years. So you treat people good, because the person that's, answering calls one day, the next 2 years later, he's an exec, or he's executive VP of something. It's like, you just never know, and everybody just goes from one label to another. So if you treat somebody bad, man, you're gonna see them sooner or later, so. But yeah, I kept my relationships, with producer friends, with my peers, and that. I should have put this on silent. My bad.
There you go. Yo, Matt, when those 15 minutes hit, go get them, okay? You heard? No. Get them at 3:30.
That's 3:30.
Go in like 3 minutes, but keep this recording. And then just tell them we're taking a little bit longer.
Yeah. So I kept my relationship with my peers. I kept working, and I think that's when I said, okay, let me just put me first. And I remember I'm sorry, I completely forgot. But we ended up signing my boy Josh, who's an incredible songwriter, artist. Like, he's just incredible. And I think, Josh's been working with us, especially with Rari, for a while now. So he worked on some of the projects, and, he helped me too, like navigate everything that was happening too. And at that moment, I said, once that happened, that's when we started putting our focus into Josh. And he's been there, helping me with the studio, just working on his stuff and just building it up. He's a pop artist though, so it's completely different. So again, it's back to figuring this, what are we doing here with this? How do we figure out pop? We know rap, we can do rap. We did that, and we'll do that again. But how do we do pop? This is the hardest genre, to me at least. And we just decided to just say, you know what, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna use our resources to see what can we do. And we started dropping, records with Josh, and just kind of finding his sound. you know, and Josh he can play every instrument, he can produce, you know, he knows exactly what he wants to hear and all that, but it takes time to develop that. So when we started putting all our time into Josh, we started to see the progress of, okay, hold on, like this is working, you know? So Josh started, you know, he starts getting attention, we drop a single, you know, we start meeting with labels again. We didn't have the funds necessarily to push it through because again, everything in this too is you know, it's marketing, is money. You got to invest, you have to. But yeah, we didn't have enough because again, pop is so expensive to push it over the finish line, but it was enough for him to have like some type of notoriety with you know, his music. And we got a call from my brother Lou. He called and said, hey, he's having a camp and he has artists pull up to his house. He has a studio there and, you know, he would love for me to go. You know, he invited me and I was like, man, this is amazing. Like, this is a great opportunity. You know, it's, you know, anytime he does a camp, it's huge. You know, he knows what he's doing. He's been in this for, you know, a long time, well respected. And I say, hey, can I bring Josh? You know, and he's like, yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, whoever you feel you want to bring. And I brought Josh over there and, you know, shout out George Street. But man, it's been amazing because it's finally feeling like, okay, I can focus on being a producer now, you know, and I can learn by being around like-minded and super talented individuals that, you know, are extremely talented with what they do. And now it's like, all right, this is what I've wanted since I was 14, to be a producer. And then I got to do it and then it stopped, but now I get the opportunity to do it again. You know, and Josh gets to, you know, songwrite for major artists and get to, you know, work on these major projects while still working on his music too. So I feel like being patient and just saying, okay, cool, like this happened right here and it wasn't the way we wanted it to happen, but we're just gonna keep working and eventually we're gonna get to a place where we can be around the people that we need to be around and work and get closer to our goals. That's coming. So when the opportunity presented itself, it was just like, you know, me and Josh were just having this conversation like, man, we need to get in these rooms. We need to figure out a way to get into these writing camps and to, you know, showcase what we can do. And I'm always advocate for Josh because I'm like, you know, it's you know, he's not just my artist. I don't even say that to people, you know, because it doesn't matter. It's like, yo, he's my brother, man. This dude he deserves to be in these rooms too, you know, and so it feels good to at least do that, you know, to say, okay, I'm focused on this, but his time is coming, you know, like he's gonna be able to be that artist that he wants to be. But in the meantime, he's writing incredible records with huge artists, you know, so I feel like now I'm at the place or, you know, a point in my life where I can say, okay, I just wanna just produce full time. Like I wanna be able to just say, to bet on me, you know, because I always bet on the artist and, you know, it does work, you know, eventually it ends up working out, but it's at any given moment, something could happen. And then I'm just like, okay, back to where I was, right? Where, you know, I'm not producing and not doing what I love. So now I'm just like, all right, let me just bet on myself.
I love that you say that because that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
This is the first time that I was like, you know, I've been helping all these clients, which are amazing clients, right? But
yeah.
I help them elevate their brand and then the business is over and then I'm back to me. Okay, cool, the next client. Let me help the next client elevate their brand. Let me do some marketing, some video, some content, some cool stuff. Cool.
And some people want that.
Yeah, people want that. That's great. But for me, it's like now I feel like I finally found something where I can do both and at the same time elevate my brand. Yeah. I always thought to myself like, yo, if I could bet on me, I'd be a millionaire. Yep. If I could find a product that I could sell and I could market, I'd be the best at marketing it because that's what I get paid to do is market other people's products.
Exactly.
So I love the fact that you say the time now is betting on yourself. This is like, I'm a big believer in timing is everything, bro. So
No,
I think for
100%.
you, this is like the door that you hadn't stepped through, and this
Yeah.
door is gonna help you open the most doors that you've ever seen.
Amen, man.
So
that's how I feel.
So I think it's dope to see that, and I think it's a great way for me to ask you this question, which is the question that we end this podcast with. And we always ask people, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? What's going on with Denny? What's going on with SumYunGhai, the producer? What's going on with the Black Room? What's going on with you 10 years from now?
I would say 10 years from now, obviously have, major records, because that's one thing that, it would make me happy, would fulfill me to say, I've gotten huge records, maybe won a Grammy, number ones, hopefully help my artists that I have reach that too. Expansion with the studio. But really also want to just be able to be there with my kids too. That's the number one thing. And my wife, I want to be able to do everything that I'm doing, but I don't want to miss those years either. I want to be able to still say that I've accomplished that, but I was there to watch my son, and my daughter show up to their games, be more present. Because I can always do music, but you don't get that back. So I say in 10 years, aside from everything that I just mentioned, I want to be able to just sit back and say, okay, I can wake up and I can work and do what I love, and I can stop at 3 o'clock and just spend the rest of the day with them. That's what I'm working towards. Because I don't want to be doing 12-hour shifts when I'm 40. I'm not, I can't be doing that. You get tired at 11 o'clock, so at 3 o'clock in the morning, those days is over. I want to be able to just, spend time with them. To me, that's freedom right there. You wake up, you do what you love. If you got to travel, sure, but you're doing what you love, and after that, you clock out, but not because you have to, not because you just you have a boundary set, and then the rest of the day is just peace. It's just being with the family.
That makes me happy to hear, and I can't wait until either your son or your daughter is keeping you up at night making beats, and I hope you pretend like you don't hear it while you staying up with your wife,
Right.
like, yo, this shit kind of fire.
Yeah. I'm like, hold on.
This could go somewhere. So
and she's like, go upstairs and tell him. I'm like, you can't.
You can't. Trust me, I know
how this plays out. He might be on to something, or she might be doing something up there, you know? So now, before, we end this, we do have a piano. Josh actually lent me his piano, and we have it in the living room. And sometimes I get home late, so on the weekends, my wife will let me sleep in a little bit, but you can't sleep in when you have kids, because they're on that piano and they're banging the shit out of the piano, and I'm just like, I want to get up and tell them stop, but again, what if they love it? What if they end up doing something with that? So now I just pretend I don't hear it.
I love that.